Good morning, people of God. Today I'm going the to the grocery, but before that, I'm going to drop by to check on my car. It is indeed dusty, some dusting of. Good morning, people of God. I'm now here inside my car. I am actually going to the grocery, but I decided to drop by to the parking space to check on my car and do a little bit of dusting off. Going out for buying a little items that are missing in our pantry. Celebrated Easter Sunday, and for us Christians, it's a very big feast. But then, due to our situation, we are not allowed to celebrate it as one. We have to celebrate it virtually. And speaking of which, Easter means life, and because Easter is the resurrection of Jesus. That is even the reason why we Christians, and particularly Catholics, are obliged to attend Mass on Sundays, because commemorating the resurrection of Jesus every single Sunday of the week. And so we associate resurrection with life, Easter with life. And since nowadays we have this corona, we are associating it with death. But come to think of it, let us look at corona in a positive perspective. Why not see corona in a positive way? So for the past couple of days, I have reflected on the positive things that corona has done to our lives. So for this reflection, for this video, I'm making it actually to spread positivity amidst negativism in our society. So we do the reflections in three different perspectives. So the positive effect of corona on ourselves, on others, and with God. So let's start with ourselves. So first and foremost, we already know this. The first point that I want to stress on is self-care. So we all know these things. We have to sleep certain number of hours in a day, to take nutritious food, to wash our hands, to take a bath. These things are basics. But then Corona is reminding us that we have to do it so as not to be infected by it. And that's concerning self-care. Second point is about time. So time is a priceless commodity that God has given us. So Corona is teaching us to learn how to prioritize things, to spend time with our loved ones, to spend time with the people that matters most to our lives. Not material possessions, but people surrounding us, our loved ones, our families. God is teaching us to spend quality time, especially during this pandemic, to spend quality time with our families. So that is the second point that coronavirus is teaching us. Third point is about savings. Naalala ko si Mr. Chinkitan. Coronavirus is teaching us to save for the future, to save food to our pantry. But of course, we have to think of others as well. Hoarding is not a solution to this situation. We have to think of others as well. So, saving for some items in our pantry, also to save cash to the bank. It is a sad reality that really slapped us during this situation, because as we all know, we are all having expenses every single month, and we make excuses to save. And so this situation is teaching us to save something for the future, so we can save money to the bank or to any place or any institution you want to save that with. The thing that Corona is reminding us is to save something for the future use. So that's the third point. Moving on to the fourth point of our reflection on the positive effect of this pandemic. All right, we have materialism. You see, we don't need much to exist. We barely need the minimum. And what are those minimum? Our home, our house, our food, our family, and of course, our relationship with God. So during this time, I was thinking of uh, those things that we barely need in our existence: our house, our food, our relationship with our families, and with God. Other than that, these things are add-ons. Add-ons. These are like wants in our lives that we can also live with our needs and not our wants. Four things about self. We have done introspection, and we reflect on the positive things that Corona is teaching us within ourselves through introspection with uh, four things. Like first with our hygiene, second with our time, how to spend quality time with our family, also about savings and materialism. So we have to think of our needs first before our wants. So let's keep that in mind. So I think it's taking time already. I spent so much time talking about self. So let's proceed to the grocery and continue my reflection while doing a little bit of things that we need to buy for our needs. Let's discuss the second part of our reflection, the positive effect of coronavirus to others. So the first thing is we're able to reconnect with other people in our lives. So we are asked to refresh the relationships that we have with God, uh, refresh our relationships with other in our lives. So amidst our busy schedule, God is giving us this time to use in refreshing the relationships that we have with others. The second point in our reflection is about being a responsible being. So somehow this virus is teaching us to be responsible, and of course cooperation is needed. Cooperation is needed for us to contain this virus. So social distancing and all that is a must, and to cooperate with the to cooperate with the things that our authorities are teaching us. All right. So that is it's a must to contain this virus. So we keep our distance to one another. Responsible citizen, and of course we have to avoid the the news. What is that news? The fake news. All right. So the third point that I want to reflect on is about us being a community oriented. During this time, our people nowadays are being oriented with the community needs. So we are able to think of other people and their needs. So we update ourselves through the news. We update ourselves through the news to know what is going on in other parts of the world. Likewise, we tend to share the resources that we have with others, especially for sorry, especially for the less fortunate members of our society. So we have the bayanihan, pagkakawang gawa. So these are all the things that this corona is teaching us to be community oriented, to always think of others before ourselves. So to recap the things or the points, reconnect with other people, to be to reconnect with other people, to be excuse me, connect with other people, to be responsible citizens of our society, and to be community oriented. For the third part of our reflection, we have things concerning God. So the first point that I have reflected on is previously we tend to ignore God, especially if our lives are smoothly sailing. But because of this pandemic, this virus is hereby reminding us once again that okay, you see, we tend to forget God, especially if our lives are smoothly sailing. Uh, Now that the pandemic is here, we instantly remember God. Same thing with what is going on with our daily lives. You see, um, we tend to ignore God, but the moment we experience problem and difficulties, that's the time that we instantly remember God. But if our lives is smoothly sailing, we tend to forget about Him. The second point about God is allotting time to pray. So during this time is teaching us to uh, allowing us to pray for the leaders, the frontliners, and those people responsible. We allot time to God. We allot time to pray for the leaders, for the frontliners, for the sick in the hospital, and also for their families. So allotting time for these people is a must. Thirdly, this perhaps is our Creator allowed this thing to happen perhaps for the world to regenerate. So our world is self-healing. So less movement means less pollution, and we are being taught to go back to the basics. Simpler life, the better. Allow me to end this with the footprints in the sand. One night a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord, and across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene he noticed two sets of footprints in the sand. One belonged to him and the others to the Lord. And when the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life there was only one set of footprints, and he also noticed that it happened at the very lowest or saddest times in his life. This really bothered him, and he questioned the Lord about it. Lord, you said that once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me along the way. But I have noticed that during the most troubled times of my life, there's only one set of footprints. I didn't understand why I needed you. When I needed you the most, you would leave me. The Lord replied, my precious, precious child, I love you and I would never leave you. During your times of trial and suffering, when you see only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. What I want to say is keep calm, don't despair, because mind you, God might be carrying us at this very moment. He will never forsake us, so we have to trust Him, for God will love us no matter what. Thank you once again for being with me, and till next time, God bless. Thank you.